Have you ever heard a bell ring so loudly that it felt like it was telling a secret across the sky? High above the rooftops of Paris, inside the tall towers of the great cathedral of Notre Dame Cathedral, there lived a young bell ringer with the gentlest heart in the whole city. His name was Quasimodo, and though many people did not know him, his story would one day echo through every street below. Many years earlier, on a cold and windy night, a tiny baby had been left at the cathedral doors. The city judge, Claude Frollo, found the child wrapped in a blanket. The baby looked different from other children. His back was curved and his face was unusual. The judge believed the world would be cruel to such a child, and decided to raise him inside the cathedral tower, away from the busy streets of Paris. He named the boy Quasimodo. Quasimodo grew up among stone walls and ringing bells. While other children played in open squares, he climbed staircases that twisted like snail shells and swung from thick ropes, attached to enormous bronze bells. When he pulled the ropes with all his strength, the bells sang across the city. Their deep, powerful voices rolled over rooftops and through windows. To Quasimodo, they did not sound loud or frightening. They sounded like music, because he spent so much time alone. Quasimodo used his imagination to make friends out of the stone gargoyles perched along the cathedral walls. In his mind, they talked to him, joked with him, and encouraged him whenever he felt lonely. From the highest balcony, he would watch the people of Paris walking, laughing, and living their busy lives. He longed to join them, but he was afraid. Judge Frollo had always warned him that people might not understand someone who looked different. So, Quasimodo stayed in the tower, watching and wondering what it might feel like to stand in the middle of the crowd, instead of far above it. Every year, the city celebrated the Festival of Fools, the most colorful and joyful day in Paris. Music filled the air, dancers twirled in bright costumes, and children wore funny masks and hats. From the tower, Quasimodo watched the festival with wide, shining eyes. The laughter drifted upward like confetti on the wind. That year, his curiosity grew stronger than his fear. Quietly and carefully, he wrapped himself in a cloak and made his way down the long stone steps of the cathedral. For the very first time, the square was even more magical than he had imagined. Musicians played lively tunes, jugglers tossed shining objects into the air, and ribbons fluttered in every direction. In the center of the celebration danced a young performer named Esmeralda. She moved gracefully and smiled warmly at everyone she met. When her eyes landed on Quasimodo standing shyly at the edge of the crowd, she did not stare or laugh. Instead, she greeted him kindly, as though he were simply another guest at the festival. For a moment, Quasimodo felt as if he truly belonged. He even joined a playful contest meant to celebrate the silliest faces in the crowd. Because of his unusual appearance, he won without even trying. At first, the people cheered, thinking he wore a clever costume. But when they realized it was his real face, some of them began to whisper and laugh unkindly. The joy that had filled Quasimodo's heart quickly turned into embarrassment. He wished he could disappear. Esmeralda saw what was happening and stepped forward bravely. She reminded the crowd that festivals were meant for laughter and kindness, not for making someone feel small. Her courage quieted the teasing, but Quasimodo had already retreated into himself. Judge Frollo arrived soon after and ordered him back to the cathedral tower. Ashamed and disappointed, Quasimodo obeyed. Yet the story did not end there. Esmeralda followed him to the cathedral, curious about the lonely bell ringer. Inside the grand halls and echoing staircases, she discovered the world he had always known. Instead of being frightened by the shadows or the towering bells, she admired his strength and his gentle nature. Quasimodo showed her how he rang the bells, and she listened to their mighty song without fear. Before leaving, she gave him a small pendant with a tiny map hidden inside. It would lead to a secret meeting place where her friends gathered to share music and stories. She told him that if he ever needed friendship, he would be welcome. Meanwhile, Judge Frollo grew increasingly determined to control every corner of the city. He believed strict rules were the only way to keep order, and he did not trust performers like Esmeralda and her friends. Captain Phoebus, the leader of the city guard, began to question these harsh decisions. He believed fairness and understanding were stronger than fear. When Frollo's soldiers began searching the city too aggressively, Phoebus refused to support actions that might harm innocent families. This disagreement placed him in danger. One night, while trying to protect others, Phoebus was injured and forced to hide. Esmeralda brought him secretly to the cathedral, where Quasimodo helped keep him safe among the bells. During those quiet days of hiding, Esmeralda and Phoebus grew close. They spoke of dreams for a Paris filled with compassion instead of suspicion. Quasimodo watched their friendship blossom and realized he cared deeply for Esmeralda. Though his heart felt heavy, he understood that true friendship meant wishing happiness for others. Even when it was difficult, his kindness remained stronger than his sadness. One evening, Quasimodo overheard Judge Frollo planning to capture Esmeralda's friends at their secret gathering place at dawn. Without hesitation, Quasimodo used the pendant's hidden map to guide Phoebus through the winding streets. Together they reached the secret courtyard, known as the Court of Miracles, where families were laughing and musicians were playing cheerful tunes. Quasimodo warned them of the coming danger, and they quickly prepared to leave safely before sunrise. But Judge Frollo had followed them. A tense moment filled the courtyard, yet the people stood together calmly. They were not troublemakers, they were families and friends. Seeing their unity began to change the hearts of many who had doubted them. Back in the cathedral square the next morning, Esmeralda faced the judge once more. She refused to abandon her friends or leave the city in fear. As the crowd gathered, uncertain and whispering, Quasimodo felt something powerful awaken inside him. It was not anger, it was courage. With remarkable strength and agility, he swung down from the cathedral tower and lifted Esmeralda to safety. Within the great doors of Notre Dame Cathedral, his voice rang out clearly as he declared sanctuary. The word echoed like the bells themselves, reminding everyone that the cathedral was a place of protection and mercy. Captain Phoebus addressed the crowd, urging them to choose fairness over fear. One by one, the citizens of Paris began to stand together. They realized that kindness built a stronger city than strictness ever could. Judge Frollo saw that he no longer had the people's support. His power faded in the face of unity and compassion. Peace slowly returned to Paris. Music once again filled the streets without fear. Esmeralda and Phoebus worked to bring people together, encouraging understanding between neighbors. And Quasimodo, who had spent his entire life hidden in a tower, faced his greatest challenge of all, stepping into the sunlight without hiding. With trembling hands but steady determination, he walked down the cathedral steps. The square fell silent as people turned to look at him. This time, there was no laughter. Instead, there were smiles. A small child approached him first and offered him a simple flower. It was a quiet thank you for his bravery. In that moment, Quasimodo understood something important. The world had not changed overnight, but hearts had opened. He no longer needed to hide among the bells. He could ring them proudly, knowing their music celebrated not only the city, but also the courage it took to be different. From then on, whenever the great bells of Notre Dame Cathedral rang across Paris, their song carried a special meaning. They reminded everyone that true strength comes from kindness, that courage grows when we stand up for others, and that being different is not something to fear. It is something that makes each person wonderfully unique. And high above the city, in the tower where he once felt alone, Quasimodo smiled as the bells sang, knowing he was finally part of the world below.